Welcome back. I'm so excited about this next session, and I wish it were nicer outside so we had more time to be outside together. I'm just gonna, it's a really packed panel, lots of great ideas to carry us forward from Tom's presentation. So when we think about a community health improvement plan that's going to engage partners on healthy nutrition, gardening is a really important activity that we can be including in our plans and writing that plan around gardening with inclusive approaches. So we have a great panel that's going to give lots of suggestions and ideas for what might work in different communities across the state. So glad that you guys are here. I want to start by just introducing our moderator. Thank you to Ian Finch, who is from Farm Connect, Montana, and he's our food access director. We really appreciate you stepping in to moderate this wonderful panel. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. Thanks for being here today. Again, my name is Ian Finch, and I'm the Food Access Program Director at Farm Connect, Montana. We just rebranded, and you might have heard of us as Community Food and Agriculture in the past, so we are both the same. I have the joy and pleasure today of wrangling this awesome panel of amazing community garden activists and implementers and supporters. And it's exciting because, coming in today, thinking about these big picture concepts and ideas, we're now going to kind of drill down to how people can get, physically involved with their own food production. And maybe that can help with personal empowerment on our journey to overall health. So without further ado, because we do have some amazing presenters today, I do want to introduce our first presenter. And the way this session's going to go is it's in the kind of Pecha Kucha style. And so each kind of presenter or group is going to have 6 minutes. So it's going to go pretty quick. There's going to be a lot of information. And my role is to kind of introduce and then basically time keep. And so if you all see me coming up, I will have a little time reminder. That'll give you 1 minute's notice. We are going to try to cruise through some presentations to give about 10 minutes of question and answer at the end. So we are going to save those questions for the end, so write them down. And then at the end, you can ask them to individual presenters or to the full panel. So our first presenter today is Tracy Boehm-Barrett, a professional consultant with over 25 years of experience in this sector, and she will be presenting on cultivating health and inclusion through horticultural therapy.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be part of this panel, and I will be sharing a little bit about horticultural therapy and then also Project DIG, which stands for Disability Inclusive Gardening, and it is a therapeutic gardening project to support the health and well-being of adults living with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So Project DIG is really the result of a curiosity, an idea and a vision that I had about a few years ago, and which hopefully and perhaps has planted a seed that might continue to grow. I do have several decorative slides that I won't be describing for the sake of time, but if we need to go back, I absolutely can. So I know you're expecting me to talk about gardening, and to that I will say yes, and. So when I started running Project DIG, it wasn't far into the program where a direct support professional that I was working with came up to me afterwards and said, I'm realizing now that this isn't just gardening. And I smiled because she was right. So most simply, horticultural therapy combines people with plants in a process for a purpose. And HT, well, horticultural therapy, I will abbreviate as HT, supports individuals on their personal journey through planned yet flexible and accessibly designed activities, plant-related activities, to support their health and wellness. The field of HT is grounded in person-centered and strengths-based approaches, and it emphasizes what we can do and provides opportunity to explore what we may not yet know what we can do. There are a few key factors that make horticultural therapy unique. It is guided by a trained professional, that's one. It's goal-oriented. So the process is to support a person's social, emotional, cognitive, physical, and overall functioning and overall health. It uses intentional and purposeful methods, and it facilitates a person's active participation activities versus a passive engagement like in a green space. It's also driven by defined outcomes and assessment procedures. There are three main types of HT programs. There's vocational, where folks may work on goals related to workplace or community participation. Therapeutic, which is geared more towards physical and mental health recovery. And then social, which takes a broader scope in supporting general health, wellness, and quality of life goals. HT outcomes can include things like improvements in balance, strength, and stamina, decreased days of depression and anxiety, improved attention and concentration, improved self-regulation and coping skills, and an increase in social connection, reducing social isolation and loneliness. And the social and community participation benefits of HT are what most caught my attention and interest, coming from a background at the Roll Institute, which focused on the social model of disability. For that reason, I focus on therapeutic horticulture, which falls within this broad scope of HT, but is less formal and not necessarily designed around the specific goals of individuals, nor are they clinically documented. So this takes me back, to circle back, to Project DIG, which again stands for Disability Inclusive Gardening. So DIG was a pilot demonstration project funded by the Roll Institute for Inclusive Communities to explore therapeutic horticulture as a service delivery option for people living with disabilities. The goal was to better understand how therapeutic gardening programs contribute to the quality of life and well-being of people with IDD, with a specific interest around meaningful participation, social connection, and a sense of belonging. The brief project description is raised garden beds were installed in a relatively unused parking area behind a disability service organization building. And then therapeutic gardening sessions were offered as part of their day services program over the course of a summer. And what we learned is that, participants experienced meaningful participation demonstrated by their personal development and self-determination, social connection fostered by improved and inclusive interpersonal relationships, a sense of belonging indicated by participants' statements about their own well-being, and being in a space where they were encouraged and honored to actively participate from a rights-based approach. An additional outcome, of course, and associated with this summit, is participants grew healthy food. And at the end of the day, participants took home what they grew to their families that they were living with in the community and to the group home residents and their peers and staff, where that was definitely incorporated into the meal preparation. So while HT includes gardening, it adds to and adds value to the production of food and productivity. The intention is it really in the process, where you find the purpose and outcomes and benefits, where a person experiences well-being, social community blooms with the congregation of all people, making meaningful contribution to a collective goal, and to the broader society, where the capacity of people with disabilities is more visible and honored through a rights-based approach to community participation. So the overarching vision for DIG, which was proposed, was an accessible garden that could one day be open to the public and offer HT programming and integrate into interdisciplinary people and practices and community-based entities. As a demonstration project, this was a seed for setting those ideas and opportunities in motion. And really, what better place to test that out than in Missoula, the Garden City? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Such amazing work happening right here in Missoula. All right, next up, we're going to have Jean Morgan, the Executive Director of Spring Meadow Resources, and let's get your presentation loaded.
This is my clicker.
That's right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jean Morgan. I am the Executive Director at Spring Meadow Resources, and this is a picture of our beautiful main office campus where we have 32 acres of property. We run along the 10-mile creek. There's a Prickly Pear Land Trust has developed a trail system out there that is largely accessible for folks. And we have a easement agreement with them as well. So the trail runs across our property. So it gives us the benefit of being able to take people out and walk. So it's just a beautiful place to spend a day. A little bit about us. We have been providing supports to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the Helena community since 1975. This is my 5th year as the executive director there. We have group home supported living programs. We have work and day supports for folks, and we support about 100 people and have about 100 staff. Again, we have a unique property. That's an aerial view, and the 32 acres out behind our office. We decided we wanted to figure out a way to better utilize some of that acreage. And so, whoops, sorry. We came up with 3 goals that we wanted to focus on, and that included opportunities, partnerships, and awareness, and how we could get some of these goals met with our garden program. We wanted to be able to increase opportunities to people that we support by having increased daily opportunities for folks, expand the garden, and always, as every program is looking for opportunities to get people engaged more in their communities and find things for people to do. We also wanted to make healthy eating and movement an important part of everyone's day. So similar to the DIG program, we started with our day program. We put a half-acre garden space behind our main office, which is also where our day services and supports program is. We also wanted to have opportunities for people to be more engaged in volunteer and paid work opportunities, but also working closer with our neighbors and community partners out in that area. We have again, a unique opportunity just in the area that we are in the Helena community, that we're right out by the Archie Bray Foundation. And so they're a world-renowned clay arts program. We have the Montana Wild Museum. We have the Prickly Pear Land Trust. And so we thought it was really an opportunity for us to get more engaged. So with the support also of a couple of local nurseries, in particular Chadwick's Nursery, we're working in collaboration with them and with the Archie Bray Foundation to increase gardening in all of our areas, and how do we connect. So that's been kind of a fun part of the program. We also wanted to raise awareness of Spring Meadow Resources and the contributions that we make to the community, and that we have a lot of people who live, work, and play in that area, and that contributes a lot to the economy. So we're an important part of the community. And we also wanted to increase healthier lifestyle opportunities for people. So we started our garden 3 seasons ago. We had the support of a lot of partners, including a grant through the Montana Disabilities, why can't I, Council on Disabilities, thank you, Meg, sorry. And in order to get some of the things started. So these are just some pictures of some of the seasons that we've, as we've worked through. Again, we just wrapped up our 3rd year. So we grew pumpkins, and we had a partnership with the Lewis and Clark Brewery in Helena. So we grew pumpkins for their pumpkin ale, their seasonal beer. So that was kind of a fun program. We grew throughout our seasons that we've grown squash, pumpkins, zucchini, different kinds of lettuce. What else? It's a long list. Strawberries, Swiss chard, kale, potatoes, corn, sweet basil, celery, onions, carrots, watermelon, and leeks. And so with that, we were able to make salads on a daily basis, and people, you know, were excited that to go and pull carrots out of the ground that had never seen that happen, you know, and really learning a little bit more about where food comes from. And the more exposed to that and the more excited people got, more hands-on, it seemed that they were more, you know, excited about what they ate and looking forward to a new meal every day. We made a zucchini lasagna, we had stuffed peppers, we made ratatouille and watched ratatouille. That was kind of fun. So all kinds of opportunities that it created for people across our spring, summer, and fall. I don't know what happened. Some of the partnerships that we were able to create, we had Yeti Landscaping came and worked the ground in the whole half-acre space and donated their time and their equipment. So that was huge. Our goal was to try to make the area more accessible for people in wheelchairs. So we actually laid garden fabric and we're able to level it as best we can. It certainly isn't, you know, sidewalks, but it has really helped people with all different kinds of mobility challenges be able to access the garden. That's a picture of Karen Chadwick. She is with Chadwick Nursery. They have continue to be partners all 3 years, donating fruit trees and plants and all of that. So that's part of our project, is to add something new to the garden every single year. As I said, we got a grant from the Montana Council on Developmental Disabilities, and then we had a greenhouse donated from Montana Shed. So these are just some of the ideas of if people want to start a garden and how to expand, you know, looking at who can you get a hold of, how can you know, make these kinds of partnerships and relationship building with people in the community. We also, with awareness, wanted to increase people's opportunities to learn more about gardening, to learn more about their health and eating. We worked with Meg on the linkage program to help people come up with some goals on their health. That's an aerial picture of just how big that space is and some of the work that we've done to make it more accessible. So we're every year adding more fruit trees and berry bushes, like I said. So it's definitely a labor of love and a work in progress. We want to continue. We've got a partnership with George's Distributing. They're next to us, so they want to help us add bees and bat houses to our property and just continue to expand our healthy program. We've started a movement group. We're doing chair aerobics and walking, and we got everybody their own little Fitbits so people can, you know, have a competition on who's, you know, how many steps everybody's taken and what we're doing as a group combined. And so again, we look forward to building on these successes and building partnerships in the community. And these are just some pictures of folks working in the garden. That's Matt. He liked to water. He got paid to help take care of the garden, and just everybody out helping pick lettuce and getting ready to eat what we grew. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. It's so cool to see all these pictures of people out there gardening and living their best lives. Next up, we are going to hear from Travis Hoffman, the Policy Director at Summit Independent Living here in Missoula, Montana, where he's worked since 2004. And I can come over to you, Travis.
Can I get somebody to run the PowerPoint maybe? Is this working? Because it doesn't seem very loud.
Wikipedia, thank you. All right.
You might have to go full screen. Oops.
There we go. Zoom in a little. Oops. Thank you. All right.
There we go. Thanks. You can go to the next slide. My name is Travis Hoffman. I'm the Policy Director at Summit. I've been there for eons. So our mission is to advance the independence and civil rights of people with disabilities. Next slide. And so how do we do this? So we do this through 5 core services, which are information referral, individual advocacy, peer advocacy, skills training, and transition, which is kind of broken up into two things. So that's youth transition and nursing home transition. Our primary focus is to ensure that people with disabilities living in the community are in charge of their own life and are able to make their own decisions, can set their own goals, and can direct their own affairs. Um, to do this, in addition to those 5 core services, we also, you can go to the next slide, work on the community level to advance civil rights and ensure equal access. We kind of break that into 2 sections, social change and systems change. So social change is a lot of community education, giving presentations, doing accessibility audits, things like that, whereas systems change is more of those legislative and policy kind of things. Next slide. When it comes to accessible gardening, Summit and we're one of 4 centers for independent living here in Montana. So we serve the western 7 counties in Montana, and there's other centers for independent living that serve other counties. But we work a lot with MEG, a lot with McKinsey, the state, and other organizations who are constantly building or creating opportunities in our communities. And so one unique thing about Centers for Independent Living is we're operated by a majority of people with disabilities. So when communities involve Centers for Independent Living, you're really including the disability community. And so we think that that's a really important aspect of designing not only infrastructure such as transportation and things like that, but gardening. And so I found this online and I thought it was a pretty interesting concept. It's called disability and design. And so when we think about design is to solve human problems by identifying them and executing the best solution. It permeates our social fabric. It creates products, systems, artwork, and technology we act with every day. Yet, even though 1 in 4 people have a disability, a majority of things that we design are designed assuming everyone is able-bodied. And so disability and design challenges an ableist paradigm by creating interactive, aesthetic, usable products and experiences for people with disabilities, and rejects the traditional process of designing for the average user and reframes the creative process by designing for disability first to create innovative solutions for all. And I thought that was really kind of encapsulates how we should be designing things, including our community gardens and other things. Go next slide. And so when you're designing a program, I encourage reach out to a Center for Independent Living to include, or maybe they know other entities or people who to include in the design process. We're able to offer technical assistance, like I said, with lived experience. And part of ensuring people with disabilities are able to make their own decisions, set their own goals, do all that sorts of stuff is making sure they're able to participate in their communities. We hear about public health wanting people to live healthier lives all the time. Well, that includes people with disabilities. And it's not just about eating healthier, it's about getting out in the community, socializing, being physically active as much as possible, and gardening is a good avenue for that. And then also including a whole community approach that includes people with disabilities. It gives everybody in the community ownership over accomplishing, designing that garden, or being able to utilize that garden. So it's a whole community approach. Next slide. And so these are just some pictures of different gardens around. So this one's out in East Missoula. It's important to involve people early in the planning process. That way you're not renovating and tearing stuff out and putting new stuff in. It gets expensive. Next slide. It's a process. It's not just a one-time conversation. You may run into issues down the road with how you design something. It might need to be tweaked. Different people had different needs. Include the disability community throughout the whole process. And next slide. Same thing. This is just a couple more pictures. One's a gate. The other one's kind of, I believe this one's at Rattlesnake School. Okay. The next slide's Ivy Street. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, and so including disability early and thinking about design up front can help to avoid poor planning. So if anybody can tell me what the problem with the picture on the left is. It's a drinking fountain that has a bottle filled to, I believe. Yeah, so no concrete pad for somebody to roll up to and drink. And then the picture on the right is the Ivy Street or garden. And it is probably one of the better accessible ones. So it's a third of it. They invited us over to take a look at it when they already had 2/3 of the trails poured with gravel. So if they would have just put compact material on those 2 trails that I have marked in red, every single garden plot there would have been accessible, at least on one side. Because when we think of accessible garden, we think of raised gardens. Not everybody needs a raised garden. Some people do, but some people can use them all as long as they can get to them. Thanks. And the next slide is just where our offices are, and next slide is just where all the other centers are. So.
Thank you so much, Travis. I love learning about the social fabric that gardens can contribute to. Thanks, Ethan. Okay, next up we have a team approach for a presentation. We're going to hear from Garden City Harvest, and we have Emily, Kern, Swaffar, and Ethan Smith. So Ethan, you can come on up, and Emily, whenever you're ready to.
Hi, my name's Ethan Smith. I'm the Director of Operations for Garden City Harvest here in Missoula. For those of you who are not familiar with us, Garden City Harvest is a nonprofit. It's been in Missoula and in the Missoula Valley for 27 years now. Our mission is to use agriculture, generally it's local farming and gardening, to give people better access to good food, to create educational opportunities, and to enrich the lives of individuals and community connections. We have 22 sites in Missoula that we manage. There's the 22nd is actually off that way in East Missoula now. And this just shows the diversity of our sites. We have 4 neighborhood farms, which are the beets on there. The community gardens are represented by carrots, and then the peas are our school gardens that are at almost all of the elementary schools around town. All these different sites, like I said, is a way for people to engage within the food system, to have more self-determination and whatnot. But having all these sites doesn't happen with us alone. It's been a common thread that a lot of folks have mentioned. We have a lot of partnerships that we work with. Every single one of our sites is owned by somebody else. We have one site that we own. It's our main office. The rest of them depend on partnerships at those sites, whether it's Missoula County Public Schools, city parks, et cetera. And then there's a second set of partnerships that we depend on, which is folks that bring our users in. We've engaged with MDSC, Summit Independent Living, Missoula Aging Services over the years that have brought users in, rented plots, and actually given us folks to come use spaces. Some of the stuff that we've done in our community gardens to try to make them more accessible, and it's been a process. We're learning as we go, but trying to site our community gardens near public transportation and trails. A big one has been giving street addresses to every garden. Folks that are using alternative transportation, if we don't have a street address, those transportation systems don't know where to drop somebody off or pick them up. Raised garden beds, traditional accessible pathways. Emily's going to cover a number of these as she goes through some of our specific gardens. Why don't you go ahead, just since we're limited on time.
Hi, so I'm Emily. I am the Community Gardens Director. And as you see on this last slide, some of the things that we've learned is just our garden design and layout. So I'm going to walk you through our evolution. Travis has already touched on a couple of our garden sites and things we've learned from them. And I'll just explain a couple more. So for us, it started with the Providence Garden, pictured here. This was in 2014, and this garden was specifically designed to be a therapeutic space. and to be accessible. So this was our first garden of this kind, our first community garden. And so we put in a bunch of raised beds and we put in this decomposed granite, which can be compacted to be a firm surface, and wide, like 5-foot wide pathways for people to maneuver all around. The raised beds are different heights. They are a little shorter for sitting height, taller for standing height, and then you can see there's some ground level ones as well. So I do want to mention this was built at the Providence Hospital Center. At the time, there was an occupational therapy unit using the garden. That has since moved. So we're actually looking for partners who'd be interested in using this space and people that would benefit from it. So if you know of anyone, please let us know. Later, we have the Milwaukee Trail Garden. This was our first community garden where we actually put in some raised beds and tried to make it more accessible. One of the things, these are the 2 raised beds that we put in. We made a mistake in that they are literally outside of the garden. So this is not an inclusive design. And someone who needs a firm surface is limited to access the rest of the garden. So our next iteration of garden design is with the Ivy Street Garden, which Travis talked about, and then also this Bitterroot Line Garden. That's the garden that is pictured here. So we put the garden beds, raised garden beds, in the garden, and we put that decomposed granite compacted rock surface, expanded that area so there's access to hose spigots, shed, compost, picnic table, and there are some ground level beds nearby, but there's still this loose gravel on half of the garden, so it is limiting people from accessing the other side of the garden. That was something we realized through this iteration of garden. And so comes 2020, we put in the Roots Off Reserve Garden. This garden, we put raised beds and the crushed granite right in the middle of the garden, and we extended pathways to both gates and both sides of the garden that is not pictured here. It's kind of to the left of the picture are the 2 gates and the shed that was installed in 2020. There's the raised beds rented by Missoula Aging Services and Dementia Friendly Missoula. And then this is East Missoula Garden. This is our most recent one. And Travis came out with me a couple times and helped a lot. And like he said, getting consultation and recommendations early on is so important. He came in before we had built it, but already there was a fence and a design and some constraints to the site. But we put in raised beds. We have this new garden bed design that's V-shaped so people could sit and face the garden beds. But this is still a work in progress. As you can see, the garden itself is hard to access and surrounded by lawn. So it's a process, and we're hoping to work with county parks and the Missoula County Schools who own the property and the lawn to build an accessible pathway to the garden. And then this is just a school garden who is right alongside community gardens and making accessible gardens and maybe even paving the way, because all of their gardens right now have this crushed granite compacted surface around the gardens and all raised beds of different heights, as well as some ground level beds, as you can see here.
And we're in the discussion part, we have plenty of things that we can talk about in terms of challenges with construction and maintenance stuff. So if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to talk about it during the discussion part. Thank you.
What cool models we're getting to see today, all of these different gardens. It's incredible. And I also love seeing the collaboration happening amongst panelists and organizations. That's a really beautiful thing. Okay, we've got 2 more presentations. So next up, we are going to go to Laura Olsonoski. And you're welcome to come up here or stay where you're at.
Hi, my name is Laura Olsonoski, and I actually am an occupational therapist, and so I am interested on that. And so I actually specialize in, I'm an assisted technology professional as well, and so I do adaptive equipment as well as complex mobility rehabilitation. So I'm also, my other specialty is in feeding, and so this is kind of a near and dear area to my heart. So I'm also the owner of Moving Mountains Therapy Center, and we're an interdisciplinary interdisciplinary therapy company here in Missoula. We have speech therapists, physical therapists, and occupational therapists, as well as a partnership with mental health services. So my spiel is a little different. So for us, gardening is modality. We use it as a treatment method from a clinical standpoint. And so I always like to start with this. Eating is not easy. And so gardening is such an amazing natural approach to work on the sensory process that's involved in eating. So we need actually 26 muscles, 6 cranial nerves, and all 8 of our sensory systems. And then before eating, eating is not our primary, it's not the number one important thing in our life. Actually, breathing and posture is. And so without those 2 things, eating is not possible. And so we look at it from our lens is let's look at those pieces first to make sure everyone's safe to do so. So a lot of individuals are afraid of food. The typical approach is food is a 2-step process, right? You put it out there and you put it in your mouth, you chew and you swallow. And so that is, and a lot of times we'll get kiddos that have been, and adults that have been in different therapy models before, where like when they're hungry, they'll eat. This is not true for problem feeders. And so actually there's 32 steps to eating. And this hierarchy on the right is a way that we go about it from a systematic desensitization perspective. And we use gardening along the way. So first we start with tolerating. A lot of individuals will projectile vomit if the idea of a food in the room near them. And so we're not going to flood them and throw a carrot at them. We're going to work on that. We're going to play with plastic food. We're going to use different sensory bins. We're going to do the idea, the pictures, everything around that for that toleration. That's the foundation level. And then that interaction. And then we move on up to smell, touch, and taste. So we're using all of our senses to approach food in a very kind and thoughtful way. So why gardening is so important to us? And there's different pieces. So I'll talk about the sensory aspect first. So sensory engagement, we have a lot of kiddos where the expectation isn't that they pick their food and eat it. It's that they're playing in the dirt. They're able to scoop. They're able to grasp the item that they are working on. And so we work to make sure that tools are accessible, not just the garden beds, but making sure that everyone has the tools that they need to feel successful when they're gardening. Because the last thing that we ever want to do is to create lower self-efficacy or self-esteem, like, oh man, I can't even do this, which is a lot of time where we're starting with these kiddos and adults with very their quality of life has been impacted based off of access. And so we start with that self-efficacy a lot. And so from a sensory engagement, we move from those base levels to make sure that the expectation isn't that we're eating the food. The expectation is that we're exploring our environment and the food in the room and then getting closer to us. So it's very fun. It's really through a 32-step sequence, you can get from a Cheeto to a carrot really quickly. And so when I'm meeting a kiddo who has 4 foods, chicken nuggets from McDonald's, fries from Burger King, you know, and as soon as they bite the chicken nugget, it now doesn't look like the chicken nugget. So now it's gone. And oh, I need to eat my chicken nuggets in the car or in the environment. And so we're working on there's a bunch of different steps to get there. So we use gardening to do that. So at our center, we have accessible tools to get there. And then we also have accessible garden spaces to do that. And so to us, to me, it's let's expose individuals to food and environments in a safe way, and making sure the expectation isn't that they're going to pull this food out and put it in their mouth. What's also gardening gives them ownership and control, which a lot of individuals with sensory processing disorder, which 87% of individuals on the autism spectrum have sensory processing disorder as well. And so we allow them to move at their own pace. We offer a lot of options, and then we move from a ground level, from a foundational up. So yeah, and then the earlier the better too. So a lot of individuals have a hard time transitioning off the bottle, off the stage 1 or stage 2 baby foods. But if we can get those kiddos in early, we can have a lot more success along the way. So yeah, that's my spiel. Oh, I'm gonna do one pitch. If that's okay, Mike. Speaking of inclusive environments, we are having a holiday hullabaloo. It's an all-inclusive holiday event at the library, and it is all the activities are adapted for individuals of all abilities, and we have real Santa from the mall. So.
Thanks, Laura, and I hope to see you there. That's a great opportunity for us. All right, we are moving on to Marissa Bremner. She is the Growing Health Program Manager at Fast Blackfeet.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa Bremner, and I don't really have a slideshow prepared for you, so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit and kind of share my story with you a little. But one of the main things I did want to share, where we have so much information to go over, is our website. So it's fastblackfeet.org. I don't mind if you go ahead and scroll your phone while I'm talking, but there's a lot of information on there. So like I said, my name is Marissa Bremner. This is my second year as the Growing Health Program Manager. So I started about a year and a half ago, but I kind of measure my terms on my growing season. So I say this is my second growing season as the Program Health Manager. This is the 4th year altogether of the Growing Health Program, which was created by my boss, Danielle Antelope, now currently known as Danielle Jarvis. So she's going through a name change there. So she's the one that really started this program and started the vision with all of it. So Fast Blackfeet is mostly known for our OU food pantry. Our food pantry is need-based, so it's open to everybody to come and access the food pantry. We're open 2 days a week. So we serve anybody that is able to come in and get food. Whoever comes in and asks for food, they get food. So there's not really like any income-based anybody can just come. So the other program that you might be familiar with is the nutritional education program. So they're the ones that will really teach you how to prepare the food that we give out at the pantry. Sometimes we get like really like odd things that people might not really know how to cook with, like for instance, like squash is something that might be kind of like intimidating. We have a few different things like that come through the pantry that we give out, and people kind of get a little intimidated to cook with it. So our nutrition education program is ones that will create a recipe and do a class so that people can come in and learn. We give out recipes in the pantry for people. So that's another really good one. So the third program with us is my program, which is the Growing Health Program. So the Growing Health Program is really kind of reintroducing the native plants to our people. So traditionally, how we got a lot of our nourishment and everything was through our native plants. So, but like kind of a little bit of a challenge and something weird about that is our people, like, we're not gardening people. So we really like migrated a lot. We followed the buffalo. So introducing the Blackfeet people into gardening is kind of a little bit of a challenge in itself. So we start with growing tea. So that's naturally how we used to ingest a lot of our nutrients and get all of our supplements that we needed from the plants was through tea. That's something that kind of like got a little bit lost over time. People aren't really familiar with it. So the Growing Health program's really trying to get people to really connect again with these native plants and nurture and care for them. So that's kind of really the main goal behind this. So each year we pick up 10 new participants for the Growing Health program. We select 10 participants in the community, and I guess that's another little piece I kind of better touch on. The Growing Health program is manned by one person, who is me. So we select 10 participants. We really try not to exclude anybody for any reason, but for the purpose of how far I can travel away from work in a day, you kind of have to be located on the reservation or nearby. I try to find different options too for people that might be kind of a little outside of my traveling spectrum. I give opportunities for people to come in and donate their time to volunteer to help build the garden beds, kind of give a lot to the program, and then I kind of try to find a way to get them set up too. So aside from the 40 gardens that we have set up on the Blackfeet Reservation, we have a few like other little random ones sitting out there. So we have probably close to 50 gardens out there through the Growing Health program over the 4 years. And so, like I said, the selection process, there's really no discrimination or anything. Anybody within the Blackfeet Reservation can apply for a garden. And we really try to encourage a lot of like the homeowner or, the person that is getting the garden to really have their own like part in designing and building the gardens. So they're the ones that will help select where they want the garden to make sure it's accessible to them. They just really take a big part in the design. So far, the gardens haven't been, I don't feel like they've really been hard for anybody to access, but definitely one thing is when the people are selected for the program, I will call them and talk to them and see, if there's some challenge that I have to face. And trust me, over these past 2 growing seasons, I've come up with a lot of different challenges, not just disability wise. If you know, Browning, Montana is like a horrible place to garden. So that's the part where I kind of got to convince people that I have to really accommodate to them. We have to fight against wind, dogs, neighborhood children. We have lots of factors that could really destroy a garden. So I really help accommodate by setting them up with fencing, different covers to protect their garden and stuff like that. So that's something that I think is really awesome about it. And then I just wanted to add in there too that it's really family, like community involvement in the Growing Health program. I do presentations at the schools. We have the schools start a lot of our starter plants for us. I have elders that come in and teach our on the land workshops where we're out. We give elders the opportunity to get a stipend to come in and teach others about the plants and what they know and share their knowledge. It's really well-rounded, and like one of the things that kind of came with the job that I didn't realize would come with the job is that it really creates a lot of bonding like in the home. So I encourage the children to be a part of the growing. I encourage them to talk to their elders and find out what they can learn from their elders about their gardens. So that's just something that I think is really cool and awesome. Like everybody can have some involvement in the Growing Health program. And we're really looking forward to getting a new building to be able to have more staff and reach out to more people. So definitely check out our website. There's ways you can donate and help. And just check it out. Sign up for our newsletter. That's like where you get all of our info.
Thank you so much, Marissa. And we did start this session a little late today, so everyone knows we are going to 12:40 to just make some extra time, and thank you for that notice. Who had the chance to go to Rocky Mountain Gardens last night? Did anyone in the room get to go? I have been. They're absolutely amazing, and we'd love to bring Molly up to the stage to give us a little overview of her project out there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Molly Anton, the Rocky Mountain Gardens coordinator. I know some folks in the room were able to make it out last night, and maybe you've had the chance to stop by. So the Rocky Mountain Gardens is a almost 3-acre public botanic garden in the heart of Missoula. And it's a project of the Missoula County Department of Ecology and Extension. So sort of a unique project. It's a partnership between the county government and a nonprofit, so that supports us. Rocky Mountain Gardens is free and open to the public. We have over 20 distinct growing areas, so it's pretty diverse for its small size. And this space has been envisioned as an outdoor classroom, and we've really just kind of come into the realization in the last couple of years that the community really wants to use it as a place of enjoyment and as a place of contemplation. And so that's been a really neat like kind of evolution of this project over time. So kind of a role that a lot of public botanic gardens play. So this photo is an aerial image of the site. There you can see there's a little parking lot. There's a building with solar panels and some greenhouse rooftops. So that's the exploration center. Maybe you have been to the butterfly house. If you haven't, you should go. It's inside that building. And the rest of the site is the gardens. This photo was taken in July. And it's still, you can see it's not very green yet. We were still heavy in the construction phase and planting phase of the project. So this was just a few months ago, and it's already changed a lot from this point. We still have a lot of areas to develop over the next couple of years, but we wanted to be able to share this space with the public this year and kind of celebrate our progress so far. So we had our grand opening in September of this year. So we're still pretty new. We're still learning a lot. We still have a lot of signage and features that are yet to be installed and developed. And we haven't really fully reached a programming phase of the garden. So that's kind of our next phase of growth that we're working on now. I wanted just to talk about some of the features in the garden that have really made a big difference in accessibility, and a bit of the process around like how we arrived at these decisions that we made in the construction process. So I connected with Travis and Meg from Summit. Not as early as I would have liked in the process. I was hired pretty late in the planning and design phase of this project. But I was directed to them for input on accessibility in this space, and they were able to look at the design, the landscape design, and the overall layout of the space, and give me a lot of great feedback that really guided this project in an incredible way. And looking back now, I can't see the decisions being any other way. So it's a huge shout out to them. I'm really grateful for that. A major component in this garden is the pathways. So originally, the plan was, when I was hired, the plan as I inherited it was to have gravel pathways. I'll kind of go back to this. So you can see this light gray, kind of white color is all concrete. Originally, those were going to be decomposed granite, and then all of the interior pathways were going to be mulch. And so that really impacted the accessibility of this space. And Meg and Travis were really firm about, you need to have some better surfaces. It will really improve your accessibility, and it really has. We made the change. All the main arterial pathways are concrete, and I mean, of course, it makes it way more accessible, and it also it made so much more sense for the project. It made it, it just made it easier to do the work that we needed to do. It makes it easier to maintain, and there's a lot of cost savings with that. So overall, just a great decision that we made. And then I can't even imagine a world in which we had mulch pathways with the level of traffic that we have. So these arterial or these more minor pathways are all decomposed granite. It's actually a product out of Lolo that is really similar to decomposed granite. So these are all packed gravel paths. Okay. Oh, I gotta go much faster. Okay. One of another piece of feedback that Meg and Travis gave me was just, you know, making sure to look through the lens of safety in these gardens. And so there's a couple of things that came out of that feedback. We extended the main arterial pathway into kind of this back corner of the garden and really opened that up as a main thoroughfare. And so just kind of create a sense of like more public facing, more safety back there. And then we've also adopted the policy of no toxic plants or highly toxic plants. And so that's been something I've had to defend a lot with folks that want to have like death camas because they think it's cool. It's like, well, it's pretty toxic. So if a kid eats that and can't communicate that they ate that, it's really unsafe. Another piece of feedback that I got was to have any like type of signage or feature that you want the public to see, have it be on that main accessible pathway. And that even last week that came up in some decision making, well, the on sign placement, we're like, well, we need to put this sign on the main path so that anyone can see it. So having those guiding principles has been really helpful in this process. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly. And let's give a huge round of applause to our 8 amazing presenters. And I'm so sorry, we did not leave a lot of time for questions and answer. Can we just do a couple maybe? Okay, I can run a mic. Is there anyone in the audience who has an individual question or a question for the panel?
Let's see, I think this is a question for Laura. Wait, I can't remember. Where is, maybe not Laura, I can't remember who, oh no, Garden City Harvest, Ethan and Emily. Where is that Providence Garden, the one that sort of needs a group? Where is that located?
It's located in Providence.
Thank you.
It's located at the Providence Center, which is up on North Orange, right before you hit the freeway, you go into the underpass.
Okay.
It's on the east side of that building.
Huh, okay, cool.
East side.
Interesting, thanks, great.
I think it was in Jean's presentation. I'm just curious, what is the relationship or association of bats with gardening? I saw you said bees in a bat house. I'm just curious what role that plays.
Well, the area that we're all in has a lot of bats. And it's just one of the partnerships we wanted to create. We have Montana Wild Museum out in that area as well. And so just ways that people have talked about how they could partner with us. Same with the Prickly Pear Land Trust. They like to give everybody information about wildlife that's out there. And so we have a lot of people that come and do bird watching. And so that's just another way to get people out to that area and partner with the community. So, and it keeps the bats where bats should be and not in our buildings. So.
I wanted to ask Marissa, as you are growing this network of gardeners, and some of the challenges that you just hinted at in terms of gardening, is there any like big aha for you just having so many gardeners to rely on to say, how do we grow things better in your communities?
Not, sorry, what exactly was the question?
How they're doing their gardens. Is there anything that you would really point to?
I think I would really be interested in a lot of like the different types of garden designs that I could approach, because yeah, that's something while I've been here, sitting here through listening to all these talks and stuff, I see where there are ways that I can improve and make sure that things are accessible for everybody, because like I feel like gardening is already open to everybody and everybody should be able to experience it, but I'm starting to see that there are ways I can look into it, and like the visuals for the educational material. So yeah, I'm taking a lot in from all that.
Any other questions? Maybe one or two more. And I know lunch is on its way. I have a question, if I may. So thank you all for your presentations. And I love the intentionality in the actual design, you know, from the ground up and including people in that design process. I'm curious if any of the gardens and projects, and I think this was maybe discussed yesterday, but thinks about accessibility for getting to the site and kind of, you know, was there any planning to make sure that it's accessible for people to get there and then get inside? And how did that go?
I can speak to that a little bit with Project Dig. So when I met with the organization, we were looking at a few different options that they had, like whether it was at their group homes or an undeveloped site that they have, and then the day center. And transportation to the space was a huge part of the conversation. And because they already had people coming to the day center, they had transportation for folks to get there. That was where we decided was like the best place at the time to do that demonstration project. So transportation was involved.
I just want to prompt Molly because there's so much happening in Midtown Missoula. Do you want to answer a little bit about the gardens and how you built more to connect to some of the trails?
Oh, you mean like connectivity with like the fairgrounds campus? Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been out to the Missoula Fairgrounds over the last few years, the accessibility has improved a lot. They've redone all of the network of trails on the fairgrounds. There's an accessible trail that goes through Playfair Park. So it's a really nice accessible space, and it has it's pretty close to the Manor House. And so we've already been experiencing a lot of folks coming over in wheelchairs, and very frequently, like there's some folks I see come out on a weekly basis, and it's just really easy for them to get to the Manor House, to the fairgrounds campus, and it really opens up a lot for them.